Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the SuperNova Astrology update for March 31st through April 7th, 2025. Well, we just had one of the most powerful eclipses this last weekend on Saturday, the 29th, that Aries new moon solar eclipse. This eclipse wasn't very exact, and yet it just had so much energy. Now we're going to continue to be in the energy of eclipse cycle until we come to the next lunation, even though this was the last eclipse of this cycle. So the next full moon is the Libra full moon on Saturday, April 12th, and that's when we'll begin to feel the completion. We're also going to be moving forward with these retrograde energies. We are in such an interesting time because that eclipse happening in the sign of Aries with Mercury and Venus in Aries at the time of the eclipse, but Venus getting ready to go back into Pisces, and now Mercury is just about to go back into Pisces. So we have the sun moving into Pisces, the Aries, the equinox, this exciting energy of rebirth, and then our personal planets retrograde, going backwards, back into Pisces. So it's a very, very interesting time. It just feels like don't take anything too seriously or get too attached, too upset, because it appears that in order to move forward in the new thing, new way, new energy, whole new world, new earth, we've been creating it, co-creating it. But in order to do that, we've got to go back into the past. We've got to face the past, face the patterns so we can get out. And so it's like going back, and it's almost like a game. It feels like it's a little tricky. You want to pay attention to signs and symbols, help you get through. But if you can, go back far enough, as far as you can, into the subconscious, into your past lives, into the dungeons, whatever's still in there, keeping you from being in the abundance that you are. That kind of loop-de-loop roundabout with the patterns that's playing out, going into the past patterns, that actually can be a magic formula to help you leap out into the new. Okay, so it's just a very, very strange time where it's like we are going back and forth, around and around, in a loop-de-loop. All the patterns are replaying. But this weekend was so intense because at that eclipse, Venus and Neptune met at 0 degrees Aries, the Aries point. And this Aries point is just so activated this year because we've got this Venus and Mercury going over 3 times each for their retrogrades. Neptune just passing over. Neptune has been in the sign of Pisces and since 2011. It's an era, where we've got all these chapters, big chapters and small little chapters, and all the little ways we've been cut into pieces with our concept of time. Somehow they're all lining up, right? Because that's the deal with the planets. It's like we're going through this evolution, and there's kind of like, oh, here's a meetup, there's a square, there's a this, there's a this. And then as we go, the math, the way it works out, because it's Mother's great mystery, is that the events, astrological events, get closer and closer together. And that's what we're having right now. Massive, massive energy of that. And so, because these retrogrades, we still have not resolved out of the Mars retrograde. We have to remember this. Mars is still in Cancer, direct, but his third and final time through the end degrees of Cancer, which is very vulnerable, very emotional. Mars retrograde brings a feeling of lack of confidence, lack of willpower, lack of strength. And it's like Mars is moving again, but still in retrograde shadow. But we know that Mars retrograde in Cancer and Leo has been all about taking us back to the mother's arms, to the loving trust, to remembering what it's all about. What's the point? 0 point, to come back to what really matters, and that's her world. And our whole world has to, in order to birth through the birth canal, we've all got to come back to that oneness. And that's why it's so important, the messages that are coming through from this mother energy to help us find our way back. And she says, she's got the she knows better than we our purpose, our potential, our beautiful gifts and skills, our unique petal of her lotus. And most of us are feeling, supernova souls feeling a little bit more confident. We're growing our confidence, our better, and feeling like we know who we are and our power, and taking back our energy and everything. But there's also a feeling of the more we find this stability within our outer world and our plans and our goals and dreams and desires become more and more nebulous because we don't have the plan. She does. And so it's just again and again, everything, all roads lead back to her and to the womb of this rebirth, planetary rebirth. So it is just so epic that we had that union and meeting of Venus and Neptune, Venus going back into Pisces, Neptune going into Aries. And so Neptune in Pisces, we got the message that it's about rewriting, reworking the delusions of the Piscean age and reclaiming the miracles and the magic. And so if Neptune has moved over into Aries, that must mean that, because Aries is the fresh new start, that we are completing the old and the past stories. We are having opportunities for miracles and manifestations just falling from the sky. I'm seeing this, signs of this everywhere. Might be little miracles right now. Grab a hold of them with this, your natural gratitude that, and just notice it. So much is about the noticing, these little miracles because they're trying to land. There's a lot of aces coming up in the tarot deck, and if you look at the ace cards and the traditional cards, the ace comes, the element comes right out of the air. It just appears all on its own out of nowhere. Instant manifestation. There's no reverse. You can't miscreate with instant manifestation. You don't have time to, right? So be open to this energy because this is everything the astrology is talking about. Venus retrograde is about reclaiming the feminine power, setting our feminine free. The captured queen, the intuitive voice, emotional voice, the voice of reason and sense that has been silenced in all of us. And we're taking it back. And so it's so cool in a way that Mercury is there with Venus for this retrograde. It's not so lonely. She's got a buddy. They're going together. They're really close. And the drama that is happening, with just before going in back into Pisces, the sextile with Pluto, conjunction with Neptune at the Aries point, and then a conjunction with the North Node, and both retrograding almost all the way within 1 degree back to Saturn, Mercury and Venus, saying, ha ha ha, ha, guess what? We got reborn in Aries. We found our joy again. We understand we create our world through joy, inspiration, love, healing, excitement about the future. Literally our abilities to co-create have a lot to do with our brain waves. And the most important brain waves, alpha waves. The brain waves when we're the predominant when we're children. And so that's play, discovery, awe, wonder, joy, levity. And so no wonder they've got us all oppressed. you know so we've got to reclaim this story. So we had a little bit of that because the Aries point has that kind of but then Venus and Mercury going back into Pisces, and so it's kind of like, do you get your rebirth? Like, are you can handle it? Are you ready? Did you really clean out the dungeon? Because we don't want to bring those stories with us. And that's kind of like Neptune. I'm almost seeing these like balloons, and the balloons are almost like crystal balls. And it's like, oh, here's the reality. It's like, here's an optional reality, and this is what might be going on. It's like we've been fed all these narratives and lies. But Aries is oneness. So it's like bringing all the delusions, all the timelines, all the stories, to recapitulation and a restart. So this is just so incredibly powerful. Now, Neptune is going to transit back into Pisces this year, and then in January 2026 we'll be entering Aries for good. So this whole year 2025, just like last year, because that's what Pluto did last year, Pluto went into Aquarius, back into Capricorn, and now we're having Neptune do the same thing. But that means Neptune three passes over that Aries point. So it is a rebirth of the old stories, the delusions, the lies of the Piscean age. And it really does have an energy, January 2026, perhaps, of like a convergence of timelines. That's kind of the picture. It's almost like Neptune is all this possibility, but we've been so hijacked, right? So it's like we've been abducted into this framework of time, you know, that is harmful and difficult for us to create and manifest. It's like we don't have a straight line. We're in constant zigzag. So maybe it's a zigzag and the planet zigzagging that are going to get us out of this mess, you know? Um, but a whole new start for our a wholeness, coming back into wholeness, into a rebirth of all of the stories, all of the timelines. Because Neptune represents our spiritual service in our birth chart. You know, where do we want to do spiritual service? What does that look like? Like, what's the area? What's that? Um, but of course, spiritual service is connected to spiritual organizations, and spiritual organizations, every single one, the more powerful it is, the more infiltrated. And so we haven't been able to trust, and we don't have really people because we've been so manipulated, and we are surrounded by people that, I mean, it's almost like they just want us to be convinced that the world is entirely self-serving. You know, that everybody has to seems that they have some sort of external motive, you know, taking advantage of the situation, you know, eh, of whatever situation, an opportunist, right? Like, this is the world we live in. It's like, what can I get from you? Hmm. You know, and it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's completely negating the mother's laws and rules, the law of the land, which just says that we all have, by birthright, a direct connection to source. You know, so that gives us the God-given right to access creation energy unequivocally, unapologetically, and it gives us the right to have rights, you know, that we're all here as source. And so, so much is getting figured out this year around, and it has to do with just sorting through all the lies and delusions. Now, we have a big shift in this because Black Moon Lilith just moved over on the 28th into the sign of Scorpio. So Black Moon Lilith represents deep dark secrets. It's associated with the 12th house in the zodiac. And so uh, Black Moon Lilith, deep dark secrets in Scorpio could be reveal of deep dark secrets because Scorpio wants to get to the truth. Scorpio isn't scared of the dark. Scorpio wants it real and deep and meaningful, you know? And so uh, Black Moon Lilith, deep dark secrets into the sign that's willing to do the deep dive to know the truth is indicating that we could have a reveal of darker secrets in our world that could set us free to come back, bring these timelines together. You know, because we've been so lied to and so manipulated on so many levels, like our history, our financial system, whether there's extraterrestrial life, like there's just piles and piles and piles of lies. And so, how can we evolve with our whole world based on lies? And so, this has to get dismantled. And it's a glorious demolition. And this is more and more where supernova souls are getting to. Is like, hey, guess what? My spiritual revolution, awakening, it's here. It's happening. I don't know what you guys are up to, but I'm not concerned anymore. It's not that I don't care. I just don't mind because I'm over here moving forward finally, and it's coming. You might not feel it right now because we're in the zig and the zag because we got to get on the right track, you know? But just know that this is all about a massive forward motion. Finally, you know. And yet it is all year of a transition. And last year, too, teetering on the edge of the old and the new. But you got to be that Jedi warrior when you go back in the old, be like, oh, yeah, I can remember this dark stuff. Now, but I'm also remembering that ancient Lemurian mystery school in the Far East where you learned all these, special skills. So we're uncovering under the darkness is the light, and that's where we're gonna have to look at the dark stories of our past lives and our past history as humans on Earth in order to be the light that we are, because we'll just keep getting manipulated. And so until we have truth and exposure, but this is in the cards because Mars, okay, so Mars is coming out of retrograde shadow, working through the third pass in Cancer. It's very emotional, like I said. Also, just really teary things like kind of like, oh, something meaningful. And it's all about coming back to mother. Like when you're in that place, just that raw feeling of knowing the truth, you're alive. That is her. And so, this energy is coming up a lot and giving us an opportunity to just come back to what really matters again and again. Drop it, right? How many times have you gotten triggered? And I'm so proud of you lately because you'll go, start to go there, right? You'll start to go and be like, I want to react to this. And this would be the old way of my pragmatic mind thinking that this would be a fair kind of way to deal with the situation. It's like, oh, no, no, no. The fair way for you is to completely let it go, step into the fires, drop all of your desire to make a point or get back or get somebody to blah, 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 and it's just like, okay, no, drop it, drop it. That's the energy of this time and this astrology because Mercury and Venus both retrograde together and Mars retrograde. And so they're oh, just trashing all of our charts. Like it's just going back and forth. It's zig and zag. It's just over and over it. And are you gonna get it? And are you gonna change? Are you gonna say yes to who you are and get out from under the rubble so that we can find the beautiful discoveries of the gifts of who we are? And that's right where we're at. And so the thing is that Mars is just finishing up his third and final exact square with Chiron. And this is part of the energy we're feeling too, because we felt this square with Chiron, which is so intense because Chiron is in Aries, feisty and impossible and wounded and scared. And, it's like immobilized. And so how do you fight for life when your fight is gone? And so that square with Chiron, we've been feeling it since the 25th of January. So just keep that in mind. And now it's coming off. The exact square went through the 30th of March. And so we'll feel the effect through the first week of April, but it's so intense. It's like, oh, Mars finally coming out of square with Chiron. Well, we don't even know what to do with ourselves, but it's been our only square. We got all these other harmonious stuff going on, right? Because Mercury and Venus are busy, but they're conjuncting and sextiling and so and trining. So it's all like sweet. It's very different retrograde because Venus has a body and she's not so alone, and you can feel the dynamism, right? That it's not stagnant. As long as it's not stagnant, we're getting somewhere. And this is really helpful. So Mars is then going to come into, not until the end of April, the 26th and the 27th, will come into a square with Black Moon Lilith, the third and final square with Black Moon Lilith. Now, the other times they met in the retrograde, they met at the signs of Cancer and Libra in square. But now, for the third time, they're going to be Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio and Mars and Leo in the fixed signs. So the fixed signs are about establishing an order or something set, finishing, completing. And so it's kind of interesting, this square. And if it's establishing something, it says, hey, we're willing to look at the dark now in order to be able to shine our light and share our message. So that's a big part of the energy with the sun in Aries coming up into a sextile with Jupiter. This is happening on the 6th of April. And it's it kind of along the lines of all of these messages coming together. It's just the way that all the transits, astrology can be like, well, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. But the way it is now, you can just feel that the planets are connected and talking to each other. And the messages coming through from the different angles still have the same message, right? And so this is a beautiful energy because we haven't really felt Jupiter's moving, started direct last month and at 11 degrees. And now this week will make it to 16 degrees. So Jupiter's a big, slow moving planet. It's just kind of the retrograde. It's like, roar. So it takes a while to get back going. And we're just starting to feel it. So it's almost like this sextile with the sun is the first transit, is one of the first transits that is happening now that Jupiter is like moving again. And so, but Jupiter moving again is huge because it's about expression. And so this is a message like with that Mars going into Leo in square to Black Moon Lilith, and it's saying we cannot come forward, shine our light, be who we are, express our true selves, and bring forward our message, Jupiter and Gemini, what needs to come forward until we clean up the mess. We've got to get the truth from the lies because our truth can't come through. And this is such a huge message right now that in all of the research around intention and vibration and manifestation, there's all this research about how powerful our thoughts can move instantaneously, and energies can move across the world instantaneously, right? But our manifestations we can't really access the universal energy if we don't and send the messages and get the healing and get the messages and all that, unless there's a coherent field. And I think this is the huge deal with all the technological interference we've been dealing with advanced technologies, HARP technologies, the towers, and just like the electromagnetic field, the Havana syndrome of the whole population, basically. But that whole energy is designed to interfere with our coherent field. And if we don't have a coherent field, we cannot get the messages. And this is why we felt so quarantined from our guidance, from each other. Just like we'll come together in the event, you can feel it. But then as soon as we're apart, it's like, wait, where are you guys? And why aren't we coming together in person? We've been trying to do this for 10 years. I mean, lifetimes. It's like the whole, and so there's this kind of, it just feels like a turnaround moment in this because we can feel that the energies of control are losing their grip. And so that means that they might be still trying to affect us, but it's not holding, it's not working. We've overcome. You in your electromagnetic field and your power and you doing this work and showing up and doing your breathing and being in nature, you have overcome. And the only reason this targeting is happening in the first place is because you are that powerful. And it will continue until you know and you own how powerful you are. And that's how you protect yourself. So there's a whole different esoteric thing going on around this frequencies and everything. But when we own our field, when we are resonant frequency, we can emit a resonant frequency. And a resonant frequency is when we're in line with, in our heart, our electromagnetic field, the heartbeat, with the Earth's heartbeat, the Earth's electromagnetic field. So we have been holding on for dear life, doing all our meditating, praying, and work, and spiritual work, and this and that, trying to just get these messages and manifestations to move. Well, we have this constant issue of a maintaining cause of this more mechanical, lower vibrational field that's trying to cut us up into squares and can't let the energy of flow can't flow. And I haven't been able to see the evidence of all the spiritual work, but we can feel that this is shifting. And so a lot of supernova souls are feeling like poised at the edge. Are we about to like shoot off into a rocket or what? It's like we are so ready. We've been waiting on the edge for so long. And it's a feeling of just like, you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea what's going to happen, but prepare yourself, you know? And so I guess we listen and we just be present as much as we can with the joy that's possible in each moment when we come back to what really matters to her, which is the only thing that matters to us, life itself. The burgeoning, beautiful garden growing back, you know, the electromagnetic field supporting incredible, beautiful growth. Do you know what this is going to look like? The technologies available that have been hidden and kept from us around uh, the garden we can grow on so many levels. It's just going to be so beautiful, you know, because remember, it's all been held back by artificial, which needs the artificial energy of control, needs a power source. Mm. And we were willingly that power source, but we will no longer play that game. So we've all been going through it individually and collectively, and Supernova Souls, wow, it is such an intense time. And yet just remember, it's all about your initiation into who you really are and getting ready for that massive abundance that's coming. Because why else? This is where I'm at. I was like, why else would I go through hell and back and almost die so many times, you know, if I wasn't learning to feel worthy of something better, you know? And then, so our love, our prayers, our meditation, our presence, our connection to the earth strengthens this coherent field where we can get the structure back, the organic structure of these, of the energetics that we can begin. And then it's just going to happen, right? Because it's been artificially blocked. And so when you take away the artificial blocks, then the natural force, cosmic energy that's all supportive of everything we're doing, right? And the easiest way is to say it's mother's dream and we get to be a part of it. So just keep this in mind because it could look really dark and scary, but if it does, it's only for a moment because these transits are so, everything's happening so fast, right? I mean, it's just like boom, 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 boom this week. And let's just talk about this week because it's really magical and very powerful what's available for us. Because I think, you know, going back to that Mars square Chiron, that square coming off is a release of energy. The eclipse season coming off, a release of energy. And so then we have this whole dance going on with everybody coming together to celebrate this rebirth because we talked about Venus and Mercury retrograde. They're not that far from each other. And so they're both going back into Pisces. Venus retrogrades back to 24 degrees Pisces. Mercury retrogrades back to 26 degrees Pisces. Saturn is sitting right now at 24 degrees Pisces and will go to 25 degrees Pisces this week. So that means that Saturn is moving and first Venus and then actually no, Mercury will be moving faster, or Mercury only makes it back to 26 degrees, but at that time Saturn will make it to 25, so they'll be 1 degree apart. So Mercury's going back to Saturn, be like, hey, we got a new plan. Mom's plan, it's the original plan. We love it. We don't have to argue about it or worry about it or anything. We just have to follow the love in our hearts, follow the golden road, listen to our intuition, connect and collaborate and uncover this beautiful dream we've been working on for many lifetimes, you know? So Mercury and Venus had a taste of rebirth going back to get Saturn. But right there, right when they're right there with Saturn on this first week of April, what happens is that Venus will be at 25 degrees of Pisces, Mercury at 26 degrees Pisces, and then Mars is coming to 25 degrees Cancer and then 26 degrees Cancer. So 25, 26 degrees, we've got Mercury, Venus, retrograde, hanging out with Saturn, turning, getting ready to turn direct, going like, hey, Saturn, we got a new, let's go, you know, and Mercury, so Mercury, Venus, Saturn, as they're, as Mercury's turning direct, in trine to Mars in Cancer. Okay? So Venus, Mercury, Saturn, rewriting the timeline according to the divine feminine, a new perspective, and freeing the mind. Okay. And then in trine to Mars in Cancer, moving forward with a new reset. It's like Mars, we know that our warrior had to go and go down and find himself in the dirt and feel bad about all the wars and all the blood and all the pain and all the failures, just so he could come back and lay there in the dirt until mom healed him, because that's when we find her. And so now he's like, whoa, I know what I'm fighting for. And I don't have to fight even, you know? And I just was disconnected from her superpowers. Like we all got disconnected, but she's still there. We're still here. We just have to reconnect. And now we know everything we're fighting for, so much that we don't have to fight. And so that's Mars. So this is all harmonized, right? Our masculine and our feminine and a new timeline, not too far away from the North Node at 27 degrees Pisces. So this is saying brand new direction. But it's through Pisces, the death and the last age. Brand new direction in death. A brand new direction of the past. And see how we're jimmying the lock? So a brand new direction on Pisces in the North Node really says we got to reclaim the Christ consciousness timeline. The whole project we've been working on from the very beginning. Because Yeshua was just the last installment that we know about. That was the last shift of ages. Now we're at the next shift of ages. And so it's a reactivation. And what I've seen is this has a lot to do with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions. When they come together, it's trying to activate the original dream timeline. And what's happened is that when we get the positive transits of Jupiter and Saturn, the powers of the world, you can go through history and see that problems, catastrophes, financial crashes and issues, wars, all that, to try to bring a gloom and doom when the magical burst of new energy was coming in. Because Saturn is the old way, Jupiter's the new way. Saturn's the old king, Jupiter's the new king. So it's about a toppling of dictatorship and moving into a more representing the people more truly. And so we're trying to get rid of the big dictator, which is the control forces on the earth, which are working through every government, And so it's really powerful that that this is happening, because it's basically saying Venus and Mercury and Saturn and the North Node, new direction forward. The only way forward is by reactivating, coming into remembering what we're doing here. And what is the Christ consciousness timeline? Well, maybe Jesus, Yeshua, his life, the story could tell us about that. And we know that he's not the only one. We just is the one public story, and that he had a whole group of people working with him into this. And we know that there's a whole group of people going to do what he did and more this time. Like it's all happening right now. Our light's turning on where we're trying to do it or not. Whether you're doing your meditations and exercise, your light is turning on. The meditations, exercise, the breathing are to deal with the light turning on, And so the light turning on, we have a light body. This is our higher technology. And so this is a robe of light, literally. It's immortality. It's how we can remain as an individuated soul, essence of consciousness, and not and retain our autonomy. That's immortality, in the definition that you do not lose your memory and you will never again forget who you are. And that's interesting that we're on the verge of light body activation, and we're also coming into a beautiful discovery of the Akashic Records. And so those soul group sessions are really helpful in that. If you feel like you cannot find the story of what's happened with that you can't figure out what's playing out in your life and the past life information, then that's what those sessions are designed to do. And so it's so powerful, because what's happening is that we've got Mercury, Venus, Saturn, North Node, and then in trine to Mars at 25-26 Cancer, and then in the middle between them in Taurus is Uranus at the same degrees. It's just so beautiful. because we've got a trine between Venus and Mars and Mercury and Saturn there too, saying, yeah, we want to rewrite the story according to the divine feminine. Because guess what? We can't turn any light on if we're not whole and complete. And we got to get that intuition, and it's the feminine mysteries that hold the key and the understanding, the Sophia wisdom from ancient Egypt and beyond Atlantean time. It's divine feminine mysteries that hold these secrets. And if you think about it more and more, I just think that the reason why there was so much love for Jesus as a man, which, it's not the church energy, it's like separate, right? You come into this contact with his soul, his being, his love, his it's like he was very, very feminine, actually, masculine, but totally in alignment with the mother, totally connected to his intuition, totally, so it's almost like it was like the mother incarnating as Yeshua, to because that's how the world could receive that energy in a male body. And now it feels like the mother energy is helping us come back to a better understanding of what that whole mystery was at the last shift of ages and what we're doing here. So we're clear, we're in a restart of this Christ consciousness timeline. We don't know what that means exactly, but we're going to turn our light on most likely. And that's what Uranus is talking about, okay? Because Uranus is in Taurus. Uranus is this connection to our higher self, our higher wisdom, future technology, ancient technology, future wisdom. And it's interesting because if you look at the symbol of Uranus, it makes me think of the Ark of the Covenant, which is like this very powerful, mysterious thing that we're not allowed to know where it is or what it is and all that. And that's kind of what our higher intuitive wisdom, it's like, oh no, you don't get that. That's in a cage. It's yours, but it's in a cage up here. And if you're maybe, find your way in, but you'll probably get real scared and punished for it. So that Uranus energy in Taurus, because Taurus is self-worth and value and resources. And so often there's an energy of do you deserve? And so in this case, we're working through do you deserve your higher intuitive knowing, your Akashic records, remembering who you are, your true history. And I mean, do you deserve it? Is it like these higher faculties that can bring that joy and that ability to project vibrational coherence and all that, right? And so Venus in trine with Mars and sextile is so powerful and so beautiful. And so that will be happening. The whole energy of that is like from the 5th to the 13th or so, 5th to the 10th, around there. And so much is happening in this dynamic time, because that means that, Mars is sextiling Uranus, Venus is sextiling Uranus, Mercury is sextiling Uranus, Saturn is sextiling Uranus. That's a long-standing transit we've been feeling since the end of February, and it will go until the end of May. And so this is all getting triggers. Like Saturn sextile Uranus has been in the backdrop. It was exact from the end. Actually, it's exact right now, the March 28th through April 13th. So it's interesting because it's getting triggered. It's perfectly exact. And Venus and Mercury are going to go get Saturn exactly sextile to Uranus and exactly trine to Mars. We're going places now. I don't care what anybody says. It's just like, get up, stand up. It might seem like a mirage of blockages and attacks and, the hazing, it continues, but does it matter anymore? Because when you're moving, and it's happening and you're on fire and you're excited. And we have to be the first ones out of the gate. We know this. It doesn't look good because it's like, okay, show up for your true path. And you're like, I'm a bit haggard. I don't. So we've got some rapid healing, rapid regeneration, rejuvenation. This is because we got the energy about Mars retrograde being an initiation, and it makes sense because he's gone back to mother and he got aligned. It started in October, and so it won't. Mars doesn't come out of retrograde shadow until the end of May, and Venus comes out on May 16th, and Mercury comes out of retrograde shadow on April 26th. So it's gonna be like end of April. We kind of got these markers, right? Because Mercury turns direct on the 7th, Venus turns direct on the 13th, then Mercury goes back into Aries on the 15th and comes out of retrograde shadow. I'm sorry, Venus goes back, Mercury goes back into Aries on the 17th of April. And so it's just like, and the pings, right? Because it's sextile Uranus, conjunction Neptune, over the Aries point, North Node, Saturn. Blah. And so, but it's all positive. It's all helpful. It's all about the future. It's all about rewinding the past to rewrite the future. So very, very positive, and supportive. And we're in between the Mars square Chiron and the Mars square Black Moon Lilith. We start feeling that Mars square Black Moon Lilith now, but we won't. It'll just get stronger. It won't. Maybe we won't really feel it, and then closer to the middle of the month. Or I'm sorry, Mars square Black Moon Lilith. Yeah, that when we start feeling at the middle of the month. Now going back to that, because Mars on the same time as Mars is squaring with Black Moon Lilith, and that will be at 3 degrees of Scorpio and 3 degrees Leo, but that's also when Mars will be opposing Pluto. Okay, so the deal is that Pluto will be in square to Black Moon Lilith, and this is our next big square energy that's going to define what's happening in our world. And the exact of Pluto square Black Moon Lilith is April 23rd to May 1st, but we'll feel it to the end of May. So this is kind of part of the reason that Black Moon Lilith is got in Scorpio has this energy of disclosure of dark truths, because Pluto is in square in Aquarius, right? And so Pluto is like the breaker, downer, transformer. And at the beginning degrees of Aquarius, it's like really excited to move into something new. But we're looking at what is keeping us from establishing into a new age. And that is these deep, dark secrets, because we don't get the truth about how they erased our history and caused mud floods in order to reset us from having advanced technology to keep us as slaves. If we don't learn that, then we're going to do it again, you know? And so there's just so much that and even the most people who have done the most research down all the rabbit holes, for years and years, apparently we're all going to get our mind blown with the truths that need to be revealed to humanity before we can enter into the golden age, which is the Aquarian age, which is the age ascension, Christ consciousness, light body, all the same. Oh, and supernova souls landing home as who they really are. So you are the timeline. Oh, sorry, scary like that, but we're overcoming our fear, aren't we? Because once we move forward and are having fun and get in our projects, it won't be so scary. It won't be so dark, but we gotta go excavate. And wow, that's kind of the energy. I'd say Pluto square Black Moon Lilith is like excavation, which I would expect to maybe have some deep mysterious treasures, scrolls, information that's been hidden underground be revealed. Hidden treasures, the ancient technologies, maybe what's in Antarctica, So that's very powerful energy for this month of April and May. So that whole energy is moving us into this kind of like coming up against whatever is still in the way of, like, we're so close. We got so much momentum, we've got so much love, we've got so much consciousness, but what is that is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, or the 100th monkey, or the thing that puts us, the critical mass, that puts us over the edge, because we're kind of holding that boulder at the top, wondering what's the point, you know? That means you're almost to the point, the very top of the mountain. And from there, you will be able to see. So hang in there, because with looking at the shadowy darkness, it's not fun, but it does bring clarity once you clear it, right? It's just like, oh God, I don't have to do that again. Thank God I learned that lesson. This is, I think, where we're going to be. Like, oh, these pieces fit together when something just didn't make sense. And then all of a sudden it's like, I get it. I get the dynamic. And this has been core thing for me, holding me back. And I've just called. So a lot of what's going on for supernova souls, I think this is the sun coming into sextile with Jupiter, is sun in Aries. It's the whole new self, a new rebirth of the potential. But in sextile to Jupiter, it's saying, it's inviting the voice and the expression and the message, you know? And so the sun in Aries is always a little bit unsure about their identity, but they're trying to grab a hold of that autonomy. And so in sextile to Jupiter, it's saying we come into our true spiritual identity, into our potential, by speaking our message, expanding our voice, bringing forward what's inside of us, you know? And so it's undeniable. It's becoming undeniable. It's just a little bit more of a presence and an awareness, like less convincing yourself of who you are and your power and your energy. So this is, and then I think a lot of, we've been focused as supernova souls, really just so lost and so broken, so trying to figure out what our purpose is, so we just get to work on it. And what this sun sextile Jupiter is saying is not a purpose, it's a message. It's a vibrational frequency, a very specific, that you could represent with a set of words, but also it's a vibrational energy that you came to bring, like a ray, a certain ray of vibration, of color. And so we're finding this and opening up to these possibilities. So that's kind of what's happening this week. It's like a real discovery of who we are, coming off of the square with Chiron, and then this magical little dance of all this rewriting, reworking. And, sometimes when you're dealing with trauma, it can be helpful to find laughter or get fascinated with the story. The story can help us uncover the story. And if you can just let the story play out without attachment and all that stuff, regret, and I should have done it different, because it just can't serve us anymore, right? And that's kind of the sun sextile Jupiter. It's like, okay, I've gone through all these things. I've been traumatized, right? It's like, oh God, how am I even here? Sometimes supernova souls just feel like so overwhelmed with what they've gone through. But now we're starting to see really clearly that what we've gone through, our story and our traumas and our this and our that, they don't define us. It's not who we are. It's just something we've experienced. And it's getting a little easier every day to separate out the story from our identity. Because when we're in the identity and that's where they want us, in that stuck loop place, we keep creating it. If we're identified. And so how do we break the patterns? Now, this is interesting because a lot of times I'll bring up homeopathic philosophy, but this is one of those times that it just really makes sense thinking about it, because when you take an appropriate constitutional homeopathic remedy, what happens is quite a miracle. It's another magical thing happens. Your body will start going backwards through things that have happened to you. Like you had an injury, it might come up a little bit, or literally a sore or a headache or an eruption. And so the body will have all this movement and power from the remedy giving the potency of that message. It's a message. It's a vibrational message to the body that matches like a mirror, And so that message will put the body through go reverse. And their old symptoms will appear. And so a lot of times people, when they go through that process, say they have, oh no, I'm going to get that sinus infection. I feel it. And I'm going to get that migraine. It's coming on. And then it will start down the path. But the remedy is working with the body and the vital force. And so in that message. And so it's like it needed to know the direction of the continued chronic pattern in order to change the continued chronic pattern, right? So the going back into Pisces and loop-de-loop, round and round in the same old shit is actually about recognizing the pattern so that it can be healed and changed for good, right? Because it's like the body says, oh yeah, this is the pattern of this headache, right? And it's like, and you're going, oh no, here it goes again. I brace for it. I got to go rest. I got to do this. Or this. It's like, oh, and then it just kind of dissipated, and it kind of just wasn't as bad. It didn't get, and so the vital force, the power, the movement has got to head in the direction of what's been suppressed, wasn't been completed, wasn't healed, and then in order to bring true health, and so to know is like, okay, I'm bracing myself because I see this pattern playing out like a trap. It feels like traps and pitfalls and loopholes everywhere. And it's all this stuff playing out. We didn't know this was going on around us. But are you starting to see this? How much? Because the matrix, if there's programmable people, basically, and they can just show up in our life and harass us with just a computer program, right? It's an algorithm, and you're like, what? How much hazing can one person take? I mean, despicable hatred. It's just, why is that towards the light? And so we've got to just understand that it's all patterns, patterning, programming. And that was the big message from the mother last week, like, it's all programmable. Good AI, bad AI, like every single species, every water, everything is programmable. And so what do we want it to be? And that's where we're lost, because the world is going through a glorious demolition of all the structures of our reality. But then what will catch humanity? It's that feeling of separation and loss, and disintegration. Say you go through a big separation or death, of a family member, it's like there's just this feeling of complete and total loss, like you're losing yourself, like you're just falling apart inside. And so that is the feeling of the death process before a rebirth on a psychic spiritual level as well. And and so just understanding that can be really helpful, and that it's an old pattern that's replaying because it's how the healing is finding a new trajectory. True healing, right? And so we can get out of the roundabout loop-de-loop for good. So just remember that that is what we're trying to do here. But this is just so incredibly dynamic, this astrology over the next 10 days, 2 weeks. Really, that energy will last through um, uh, the Mars, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, trine Mars, pretty much through the middle of April. So um, yeah, this next 2 weeks, it's just lining up for you, just for you. You know? And that just perfect person, dynamic situation to play that pattern out for you, so you can have another choice. And that's where this hazing stuff, where you're just kind of like just not affected by it anymore. I just don't, yeah, that's there, but I'm not going to let it define me. I'm not going to take it personally, because there's designed armies, digital or like bots out there trying to harass us, right? I was like, it's just nothing personal, but it's all coming back to this one thing, and it's pushing us, whatever we're going through, but particularly feeling those kinds of attacks on whatever level. It's about pushing you into your superpowers. Because your light body, you can protect yourself from anything. And I think SuperNova is the reason it's been so difficult for us, and our connection to each other and our soul group, all that has a lot to do with these higher technologies we've already experienced. That was a message that in this evolution, we've already experienced higher states of consciousness and technologies in our very own body. And so we have a birthright even more than other human souls because we've already attained it. It was stolen from us then, right? And we were told that it wasn't ours, and told to forget about it. And if we did go anywhere near it, they'd punish us to remember, you know. And so we stand at the ready. We stand at the edge. That's the message we got. Supernova souls at the cutting edge of this ascension. And recognizing that somewhere in our memory, we know what's going on. But luckily, mom does too. We can just kind of rest in her arms, bask in her love, and let her move us. Because when you start listening to the mother through your own body, as we detox, we get in touch, we go to nature, we're like feeling, then she cannot lie to you, and you cannot lie to yourself anymore. Because it goes from just a hit of intuition that you could ignore in the past if you wanted to your whole body revolting, you know. And it's a different way of living, and it's difficult, and yet it's so beautiful and it's so powerful that you can be your supernova soul and represent this different paradigm. And thank God you held on, and you know, and you feel this within your being, this alignment with this goodness and the right way of doing things, and supporting and aligning and celebrating the right way, and with gratitude and reverence, showing up with gifts, you know. And like, that is kind of the key for a lot of supernova souls right now, like getting to a point where the hardest thing that you might be facing, you're also feeling massive gratitude for it. And that can be really helpful, because that's what mom says. You got to show up with gratitude and reverence and gifts, you know. It's mutual reciprocity. You want the goddess energy, it's ours, right? But it's like we show up to that energy humble and ready to receive. So I hope that you have a wonderful journey in this next period of time. This energy of these magical, constant, dynamic pings, ping, 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 ping. Maybe it's like the tiny silver bells ringing again. Um, but that's happening through this first couple of weeks, taking us right up to that April 12th Libra full moon. And like I said, that lunation after the last eclipse, we're going to still feel weird eclipse energies until we get past that Libra full moon. And we're also in the zigzag yin yang back and forth roundabout till about then too. So we'll just see what it looks like, but incredibly powerful, dynamic time. Dynamic means quick, not quick, short time between events. Okay, that's kind of the energy of what I'm talking about. So um, if you get a ping and you're reeling around, just know that you got to kind of come back around. You'll get another ping. You don't have to stay stuck in the process anymore. It might feel like that because of the retrograde energies, but they are going to resolve lickety split. One more week of Mercury retrograde, 2 more weeks of uh, Venus retrograde, and then Mars making his way back into Leo, opposite Pluto, square Black Moon Lilith, but then moving out of retrograde shadow not until the end of May. So this is this resolution in Mars that all started in October of 2024 and through May, through the end of May. And that's quite a journey. So be gentle with yourself. The Mars retrograde was really difficult for some, depending on how it was fitting your chart and where you're at with your process of coming into your a connection and balance in your masculine. But wow, really intense. And the Venus and Mercury seems way, but we'll see. We're going back into Pisces, so just it's all bets are off, right? We have no idea what's going on. And yet we're feeling a little bit better about things. So the better we feel about things, the less we know what's really going on. But we're finding this faith and trust that we're here, each other's here. We can feel the mother energy, um, and so we can't lose. She's reborn into who she is, and we're gonna move forward now. We just got to work out the kinks. Try not to get trapped in the kinks, right? Because that's what feels like a lot of these situations, karmic situations. And it's like you're just like, oh, la, 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 I'm just doing this. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, where did this pressure come from? Of what? So it's just, but that also can be an invitation with the sextiles to Uranus, awakening to that higher power, awakening to this who we are, what we've done, who we've been in past lives, the Akashic records, the memories, the memory of the Sophia wisdom, and our access to these ancient miracles of regeneration and miracle healing. That was what brought the people to Yeshua in the first place. That started the movement, you know? It was healing. And here we are, a bunch of healers that just want to put our robe of light on and go do our shit in the world. Go help and make it better. It's all we've ever wanted to do, but forces have been against us the whole time, against anyone of the light, of anyone who wants to do healing. And that's where we say, yeah, okay, that was my story, not my story anymore. It was my identity. I really got wrapped up in it to the point where, because you know how that is when you're like so triggered and you can't see anything else. You're so wounded, so triggered. And then, of course, you're trapped in that, right? And you got to gradually soothe yourself to a place where you can unwind and process. And that's what we're doing, I think. So hang in there, Supernova souls. I'm so glad you're here. It's such a comfort to know. And so thank you so much for your support, being a part of the Supernova Soul Tribe. Never miss an activation for $20 a month. Also, there's a link to donate if you would like to just throw a donation. Appreciate this ad-free space. I really appreciate you and your energy and your love for this realm and all we've done together over lifetimes. And I'm just so glad we found each other and that you're here. And we are all here. This is part of the message. We're all here. We made it. Don't worry too much about leaving anybody behind or if somebody's not going to make it or not or anything. Mom's got them. And it's work. It's like this astrology is that take your places. Take your places. If you have a place, you have a group. If you have a place, you have a mission and a purpose. And it's so big and it's so beautiful and it's so fun. So be in the energy of that as much as you can. Because as we're reworking and rewriting the past, we have to come back to that place of something to replace it with. And we are the new structures. We are the new timeline. And yet, and it's kind of like, ooh, that's a lot. But we know how to do it right. You know how brilliant you are and all the gifts and skills and talents that you've developed over many lifetimes and this lifetime. But then we've gotten the message again and again that, go ahead and stack all those degrees and those certificates of the healing programs and all that you did on the wall, all the supernova souls. But the skills we really want to work with are typically hidden from us in our subconscious. We have not worked with them in this lifetime, because they're so powerful, so beautiful, but so hidden. So we have to uncover. And that's what we're doing. We're uncovering ourselves, our true, beautiful potential from out from under the rubble. And so thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. And go back if you're called at all to get any of the replays of those soul group sessions to get that past life information. Really great work happened. And it's every soul, supernova soul that takes part in those grows the field a little bit more for that healing to be available for anybody who might be resonant, It's just the most beautiful, non-invasive way to offer support to this world. Just send it out into the airwaves in our beautiful, coherent field. So thank you for helping with that and maintaining it. And please love yourself through this as much as you can. Just the precious gift that you are. And I am so sorry you've been so mistreated, but it's just the name of the game, I guess. And now the name of the game is we're really badasses with badass superpowers, and let's just get on with it, So thank you so much for being here. I love you so much. I look forward to connecting with you soon, and I will see you then on the next update. Till then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.